Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Princess Margaret Secondary School and St. Philip Speaks. This is your opportunity to engage with your MPs, and there are a number of senior public officers here as well to respond to your queries, questions, comments, whatever. It is your opportunity to speak. Do not be afraid to speak. All we ask is that you be respectful and that you recognize that, as has happened at all of the other parish speaks, we've had more people speaking or wanting to speak than we were able to accommodate. So if you're able to do it briskly, but still get your point across, more people will be able to participate. So we are going to go directly into the interaction. There are no opening statements. You know who the people are up here. You have the Attorney General, you have the MP Kay McConney, you have MP Dr. Sonia Brown, and you have MP Indar Ware, your people, along with Prime Minister, of course, taking the lead. So the mic is open. As I said, please indicate your name for the purpose of taking notes, and then go straight to the point.
Thank you, and let me say good evening properly and apologize for being late. I was trying to resolve some issues that hopefully will be of benefit to some citizens. So I apologize again. And truthfully, I also started it thinking that the time was 6:30, which is normally the time. So I apologize to you. Thank you. Who's going to open the baton? Thank you for allowing me to come to St. Philip. This is a parish that I am happy to be in, and I've spent a lot of time in this hall as well. Mr. Critchlow, you seem to be wanting to get up very fast. So let's go.
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister and the head table. I'm going to be very short and precise. For over 32 to 40 years, I have been the voice or the go-to person for residents of Christchurch East, St. Philip North and South, more recently, St. Philip West. And for over 40 years, we have felt neglected and left out in regards to a request that we were asking for all of these years. And that request is a proper road coming from Darrell's Hill to the St. Patrick's roundabout. And with this meeting being put on, I was approached again to go ahead as the voice for the people. They were bitterly complaining while being thankful for the road being done from Newton to Searles roundabout, but they are saying that the road from Searles to Six Roads could have been left out because we have more roads that are in worse situations. As I tried to explain, I don't know under what programs these roads are funded, but nevertheless, my Prime Minister knows what she is doing. And she is a capable Prime Minister with things and plans in place to make us look good, and we will look good. But on the other hand, you, Madam Prime Minister, you can forgive the debt of 40 years for past administrations, thems, bees, past Prime Ministers, and past representatives by doing us good and coming to our aid and giving us that road from the Yorkshire to St. Patrick's.
Thank you very much. Look, are the persons from MTW here? Can you come forward, please? Rommel, you have information on that road, or you don't? Okay, so yes, ma'am. Who's coming from MTW? You have the status of the road for me? That's under the other road that passes by Beanock Roy that we were looking at, that really doesn't need redoing, and that I've said go back to the Inter-American Development Bank, and I do not feel that the government should be borrowing money for a road that is not bad. Now, we inherited that as part of the project from the last administration. It is not a simple process to go back to the bank, but I've instructed that we go back to the bank. Mr. Boyne was with me when rubbing shoulders on Saturday, and hopefully we will be able to get somewhere. I can't promise, because the negotiation is what? 2 entities, correct? So we'll go back to them. But like you, I believe that there are other roads that are more deserving in this country, but it is also a commitment that we had. In that same package of roads, however, was Carmichael Road. And I think all of us would agree that Carmichael Road has been one of the worst roads in this country for decades. So we can't just say forget about the package, because we need the package. But what we can say is, look, and I've done it with something else when I met with the president of the IDB in Washington in May. I said, look, I'm not going to ask you for money for we don't need, because there are too many things that we need to do, and let us focus on what we need to do rather than what we've inherited. So, my brother, I hear you. If we don't get it in there, and I'm waiting for the young lady to speak to tell us whether, if by any chance, it is in that IDB or CAF package, and if it isn't, then we have work to go and do. And the acting minister, Mr. Roman Springer, is here, and his officers are here, and we are taking careful note. The beauty about these meetings is that I insist that we look at the follow-up after each one. We can't always solve everybody's problems, but we're going to try our damnedest to do so. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Lorian Graham, standing for Mr. Tudor.
You may have to speak a little louder, we're not hearing you. Or maybe take off the mask. All right, that's
Good
fine.
evening, Lorian Graham. I'm speaking for Mr. Tudor. The Yorkshire Road, I do recall assessing it a couple of months ago to be considered under the CAF project. I do not see it on my current list of roads, but it was assessed as one that needed to be worked on, and we had done notes on where needed sidewalks and where could just be paved and where needed reconstruction. So it was considered. I do have to check back to see why it is not on the list that I have with me.
Okay, let me help you. What I will do for you is that as Minister of Economic Affairs, I will ask for the meeting with the IDB and see whether, how difficult or how easy it will be for us to substitute, because the other road by Beanot really doesn't need doing again. That's the truth. It would be a case of us spending money twice. Minister McCartney, is your case, your constituency. I would like to humbly suggest that it don't make no sense, quite frankly. So thank you for opening the battle. I didn't know that you were Desmaians. Let's go. Yes, sir.
Good evening, one and all. My name is David Griffith. I was hired 15 months ago to work with the ASH program. It brought me far because I was a wretch. I had no means of employment. I probably know where the next meal was coming from. My vote did not only go to the BL people. My heart went to Miss Morley, the Prime Minister, for her accomplishments as far as taking youthful men off the road that was only the mind was substantiated, sitting up on a block and smoking weed and drinking alcohol and then doing crime. They put them on the road and just shove a little ash to get them a means of employment every 2 weeks, which everybody's look forward to, because it helps out mommy who may got a disability that can't work or nothing so. You understand? It helped the little brother to go to school. But here it is now. They're saying that we program down within the next week or two.
Hold tight. Let me stop at one time. I know where you're going. Yeah. I had people all the time coming at me. The program, you're not going home next week nor next month. But having said that, let's be very clear. And I only know how to talk straight. So what we are trying to do, and in fact, that's what one of the meetings that kept me waiting back this evening too. We have to build houses in this country, and we have to do some other things. So that the ASH program workers, I'm trying to make sure that some stay, a few stay by MTW, because we're trying to do the village tenantry program, not through Jason, Mr. Boyd, but the equipment that we're buying to be able to put equipment at 6 depots, to be able to make sure, as I said at the last meeting, that if you're walking out, you don't stump your toe, or you don't go and walk out for 2 or 3 shoes to be able to get out. Because all these other pretty roads to the front, people who roads down inside the tenantry still ain't getting done. So that's one. 2, We're trying also to retrain a number of you to see how many can go in to, well, even before that, the Complant Road program, which should start soon. The last time I was here in a Parish Speaks, St. George Speaks, I think I just signed the Exim Bank loan, which will cause the roads all on the East Coast,
Yes, ma'am.
all of that to be done. And we're asking that the people who are some of the people from the ASH program who can be transitioned into that program, that we should do that. Correct?
Okay.
And thirdly,
Yes, ma'am.
there are some of you who can also be transitioned into house construction.
Yes, ma'am.
The government is about to launch, as I said, a major housing program. These people here will tell you that if you see me get vexed, it is because I feel that we should have had the housing fairs already. You got a house in Queen's Park, go and look at it. A different person every 20 minutes. You got a house in, what do you call the other place? In Lancaster, two houses, a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. Go and look at it so we can expand the numbers building. We got a house in Britton's Hill. Go and look at it, the light gauge one. Because at the end of the day, here's what's going to happen. NHC, and Mr. Gill spoke at the last meeting, will and has been going through their list to see how many people are eligible who had their names down already on the NHC list for years. 2, some may say, I want, some may say, I'm not interested anymore. So you need to go through that. 3, those who work in government, you're the easiest to get mortgages. Why? Because we know that your employment is what? Secure once you're appointed. So that what we are trying to do between fixing the houses for Elsa, because we still got some people,
Yes, ma'am.
and the ones for the people who just want their own house, nurses, policemen, teachers, nursing assistants, you understand? Let us build the houses for the people. So it will require some training over the course of the next few weeks for those of you who have those skills and for those of you who can learn quick so that we transition out some of you. Why? Because you and I know that the ASH done. So we can't keep calling it the ASH program.
No, we can't call the ASH program.
You understand?
We
So I got to find ways of making it a real thing and to give you that sense of pride so that you can keep working in that job and move from there to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. Because of COVID, I am fooling with her, it has taken longer to do a number of these things than we would have liked. When we said in April, first stop for us to check was the end of July. That's why you heard the rumor. Since this morning, I tell them, no, I am not sending home the people at this point in time. We have to finish the transitioning. You understand?
Okay.
Because we can't live so with one another in a country, the whole world tight.
Tight.
But what we're trying to do is to make enough room. It ain't gonna give us everything that we want, but let me at least cover people's basic needs. Yeah?
Okay.
So I want you all to work. But the Deputy Prime Minister has had to go off on duty, business outside of the island. When she comes back, she and Minister, the Power Sec, Mr. Springer, will be looking and working with you. There's some among you too who actually have the capacity to work in other areas of government.
Yes.
So I've asked them to design a form that at least starts to tell us, look, you might say, I prefer to stand with the roads. You might say, no, I prefer to work with the houses. And that's one may say, no, I got a diploma in X and X and Y. I hear you need something in another area of government. You understand? So different people will have different, and we're going to take the time over the course of the next 2 to 3 months and work through week by week by week to see how we can place you. They got a number of private sector projects about to start too, and then by the end of the year up here in St. Philip, by end of year, early next year, because they had a COVID outbreak among the workers, so it may be pushed back a little bit. But you all can pass and see how fast the hotel coming up, and therefore that will open, Wyndham will open it up by Sam Lords by early next year.
Right.
And there are other properties that are opening up by the end of the year.
Because this is what I'm saying, right? Because I love my job. It shows me a sense of responsibility, know that if the grass here, it got to come off the sidewalk here. It's like way too poor workers because this is what is giving me bread and butter. You understand? We take it to heart. We call it beautification of Barbados now. This what we deal with. And so, Miss, I don't even know. Auntie Mary, we love you.
I love you too. I love you too, David.
We love you. You understand? Because you know, to go home unemployed, as the room was saying, I can't go any place and tell her, well, I'm unemployed, I need a pack of biscuits. It ain't gonna work.
Agreed. And that's why, as I said, it can cost us a little more time. It can take us more time. It costs us a little more. But I've said, look, even if I have to restructure one or two projects and push them into next year, let us keep people eating in Barbados first. You understand? But I'm also realistic. If we just do it without building capacity, we will end up just like where the last government left us. And you don't want me to do that.
We don't want that.
So take my time. 1, what you want to do. 2, what your skills are. 3, if it isn't housing, it isn't roads, tell me, put other and tell me what it is. And then I will have a team of people going through and seeing how between the government and the private sector we can place as many people as possible and transition them. Because the truth is that Paul started it.
Yeah.
All right, so we good?
Yeah, but you remember last time I spoke to you about the constituent up, so you know what you tell me?
Man, give David a chance.
No,
give him a chance.
The last time you spoke to me, I did the constituent when the Sam Lord bus is turned. You know what you tell me? I'm taking you off the road. I would like to use the woman your word.
Take care.
Good afternoon, all. Name is Sylvia Brown Nels.
Sorry, what's the name?
Sylvia Brown Nels. Brown Nels. 2 points.
Brown nails, got it.
That's right. 2 points. I think my point here is to beg. I have an issue. There's a Companies Amendments Act number 2, 2019-51. There's an annual return form 35, which all small businesses basically file, because if you're making less than $1 million a year, you're supposed to file this form 35 with KIPO. This is fine. My issue is the annual fee for filing is $100.
What form is it?
Form 35. The annual fee is $100 a year. I have no problem with that. The penalty for late filing is $10 a day, including Sundays, and it was capped nicely at $3,000 a year. I have a few clients that missed the deadlines, and so one in particular who got a letter from KIPO saying he's 3 years late, he owes $9,000. So we cut there. It's a small business. We can't afford that. Number 2, we can't even go ahead to file the newer years, but you can if you know how to use the back door, but it's not, something out there. He can't go ahead and file for later years, so he's a 67-year-old man who y'all are saying owed $9,000 in a penalty because he didn't pay a $100 fee. How can we get a waiver? Who I got beg?
The law under Judy's taxes and other waivers does allow for anybody to apply for anything, but they will have to be considered. And the issue is, that's the point. And the issue is that he is but one of many.
Yes.
And he is just lucky to have you articulate his position.
Yes.
And that we, I think, had put the cap in place
Yes.
at the 3,000.
Correct.
Because the last government left it
No
open-ended.
cap.
So that if you owed 9, he would probably have owed 27,000 or 30,000 now.
Correct.
Right. So, but what we're trying to tell you is that let me look back at it,
Okay.
because similarly, we can't appear not to be effective, because one of the reasons, and Dale can speak to it, he has been working for the last 4 years against the listings that Barbados has had, both from the FATF and the OECD. And one of the things that they look for is this phrase, effectiveness. And if you appear to be doing something, but it is not effective, you're going to still get slapped. And what is the implication of getting slapped and put on a list? that companies that want to do business with Barbados and that may be going to a bank from overseas, because in Europe they blacklist you, they say you need enhanced due diligence. What is enhanced due diligence? Additional measures to see whether you should do business with us. But most people and most banks will say, you see what? There is too little work coming from Barbados for us to be doing any enhanced due diligence, so just de-risk them and stop doing work with Barbados.
Okay, question
So that is a problem. Okay? Secondly, we have to then make sure that when we do it with the justice of the situation. But I suspect no. There are too many people who have filed companies, open companies, but have never complied with the rules over the years.
Correct.
And we're going to need a public education program
Yes.
to remind people that if you have a company, it's a good mechanism, but you have certain obligations that you have to adhere to.
which is brilliant. I think
Okay.
education will be half of the battle here. Point number 2, which is a little personal. I have a child who got an exhibition back in 2019. I still have not received her first scholarship payment yet, and she's in university, which means I had to cover it, and her mother is a broke person. What can I do? I've written to the... I see the Minister of Education is right here.
I think, and what I've taken a deliberate, I've made a deliberate habit in these meetings not to have people embarrass themselves on individual issues. My personal assistant is not here today, but in her absence, where is Alex? But, and secondly, afterwards, Kay will see you and explain or investigate either which way as is appropriate.
Would appreciate it.
Thank you, my dear.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Richard Carter, St. Philip West. And my issue here this evening is 3 phases. It's maintenance, it is trimming the trees, and it is a pavilion at Loaders. Those are 3 issues that were supposed to be addressed over a period of time, and I hope that going forward that these maintenance issues and the
This is maintenance of where?
like the
Mr.
footpath go from roundabout up to the school, going to
Maintenance
Waters,
of what? The road?
the footpath.
The footpath, sorry. MTW, you taking a note? Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Right, and then there's other agricultural artery roads that needs maintenance. because say-
Agricultural
artery roads.
artery roads, thank you.
Yes, that needs some maintenance that they were not maintained since they were put in. And we will also need an extension to the irrigation. And the trimming of trees.
Okay, the trimming of trees is a general statement, so I assume that you have a list of areas where you feel that the trees need to be trimmed.
Yes, ma'am.
And let us look at that. If you can get that list, that area with the list of trees that needs trimming into, you're talking about St. Philip West?
Yes, ma'am.
If you can get that in and between Public Works and whoever else, in some instances,
Later
if
power.
it is private property, you obviously can't go on people's private property just so, and you need people's permission to do it. So that's why I'm saying that I can't give you a
The ones that
specific
I'm
answer.
speaking about is at the side of the road.
No problem, but side of the road, it depends on how far the side of the road to.
Within the footpath.
No problem. So just give the locations and we'll look up for it.
No
Okay?
problem. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother.
And Prime Minister,
Yes, sir.
you know this voice, I'm sure. This is John Goddard,
Yes, sir.
and I'm from St. Philip South.
Good to see you, Mr. Goddard.
Thank you. Good to see you too. How are you keeping?
Poker, poker.
Okay, that sounds like uncle.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are two issues I want to raise with you. I know one can be long, and I don't want to do that and take off your show. The first one, Madam Prime Minister, has to do with old age pensions. Pensioners and taxes. Now, I know that pensioners have an allowance of $40,000, and after that, they have to pay taxes. And sometimes, Madam Prime Minister, there are people, old age pensioners, who at the financial year, when taxes are to be filed, tax returns are to be filed, find themselves paying $3,000 and $4,000 at one time. That creates hardship. I know some people may say that once you're paying that amount of money, your pension can't be that small. But the truth is, given the cost of living and so on, the money which let's say you're earning $4,000 in pension, that cannot go as far as you would like, especially since, like me now, the aches and pains come on. Madam Prime Minister, in my view, the allowance for pensioners should at least be $60,000, because what would happen is that it would allow pensioners to have more disposable income, and they would not have to use, as many of them do now, the health facilities like the polyclinic, the one in 6 rows, and spend a lot of time there and prevent other persons from using the polyclinic. They would go to their private doctors. A lot of pensioners prefer going to private doctors, but the cost is sometimes prohibitive. So I would like to suggest to the government, and I suggested to the last government as well, I would like to suggest to the government that they look at, I know that things are tight, but I would like...
Trust me, it's a point being well made. We're going to consider it, not immediately, but in the next suite of changes, I'll consider it. We're going to enter conversations as a country on a number of things in the next few weeks and months. So your comments are timely. I don't think we can do anything this year, but by the same token, as soon as we can do it, we're going to look at it. And it may not go straight to 60, but we recognize that we need to revisit it because it's been at 40 for a few years.
Yes.
That's correct?
Yes, it has been.
Yeah. And
now,
I thank you for raising it.
Now, the second point, Madam Minister, you know full well that I'm an educator.
Absolutely.
Retired all now, but...
I would like you to come and help this young lady here with the education reform.
I'm going to address her now.
Are you serious though, Mr. Goddard?
I know what you're saying. Ms. McConney, let me address you. I know that the government's policy is to abolish the common entrance exam, and you know full well, Madam Prime Minister, I support that fully. I don't necessarily
and
support...
that's why I want you to come as part of an advisory group. Kids, now they've sent me the first draft, and I've said that I would like to meet with them in a week or two, but I'm going to require that they have an advisory group as well, because the only way we're going to get through this process is by building and publicly educating like you're doing now as much as possible. But go ahead.
So, now I sent some proposals. I don't know if Ms. McConney has seen it, but I did send some proposals to Ms. Idemia Denny because I know her well. I sent it to the ministry, to her. And I would suggest that you take a look at it because I have some suggestions for the way in which we can reform the educational system. Now, I am on the board, as you know, Ms. McConney, of Princess Margaret Secondary School. And Princess Margaret has had a hard rap. It has suffered immensely from public castigating it over the years. It receives one of the lowest intakes in the country, and teachers here have to work miracles to get children up to a particular level. Now, Madam Minister, you would know from working in ministry, and I certainly know Madam Prime Minister knows, that we no longer have a situation in Barbados where there are schools without qualified teachers. All of our schools have highly qualified teachers. so that our children can go to any school and do well. But what we do is to cream off the top. Now, I taught at Harrison College, so I would know what I'm saying. We cream off the top. We give Harrison College and Queens and the minister, the Attorney General School or Common Mayor, we give them the cream of the crop. And then when they do well at A-levels and so on, and CSET and A-levels, we congratulate them on doing something that they should do in any case. But then we berate Princess Margaret and St. George Secondary because they don't do well. I heard somebody on Brass Tacks asking that results be published so they can see the schools that are doing well. You don't have to be an expert to know that Harrison College and Queens and St. Michael and Common Mayor and even Foundation and the Lodge are likely to do better than some of the schools that we consider to be bad schools. This notion of good and bad schools, Prime Minister and Minister, are doing a lot, that notion is doing a lot of harm to people's children. A lot of children, I know for a fact that at this school, every year, children come here because they didn't want to come, but they are assigned here because of the marks that they scored. And they cry. Teachers have to comfort children every single year and encourage them to try no matter what. I am saying that that is an injustice which you, Prime Minister and Minister, you must rectify. It has to be that way.
And with your help and others, we're going to start soon. Let me say that COVID hurt us a lot because COVID took 2 years out of these kinds of conversations. But I'm satisfied now we cannot wait any longer. Obviously, even when we announce the proposals, they will be the subject of town hall meetings all over the country like this because you're dealing with people's children. And people must understand that what we're trying to do is to make every school a top school. Because that's really what you just said. That you got a few at the top and you're just leaving the rest open to any and everything.
Yeah.
We can't continue like that. Secondly, we need to train people to be able not only to be good citizens, but also to be able to be capable of working and to have an idea of what they're going to be good at. And it is going to mean restructuring the school system at the secondary level in a major way. And that process, as I said, I'm ready to meet with the Ministry of Education now. They've sent me the draft paper. We're going to meet probably in a week or two, probably 2 weeks because of crop over next weekend. But it's going to need also a team of people, of advisory people like yourself and others who can speak with authority on what is the problem we are trying to fix. Because there's some people who say, well, the system don't need fixing. I have seen too many people in this country thrown by the side. I was education minister for 7 years. I'm going to let Kay speak and hopefully she will tell you why she is there because she has committed to making that change to give people in this country a chance. The same chance that she had. The same chance that many others have had. And what hurts me, I look up at that board and I see names of people who have represented this country at the highest level. And they came to school here at Princess Margaret. Trevor Clark, David Eswick.
Have some pain.
You understand?
Yeah.
And I'm saying to you that what we are fighting is a mental mindset. So I can't change, or you can't change a mental mindset overnight, but we can change the system. And we can make the system more responsive and more effective to be able to do the things. Clearly, when the change comes, you're going to need a timeline. You can't do it today for September. You can't even do it today for next year.
Right.
You need, because you're dealing with people's children, you need at least a 2-year period in order to be able to put everything in place, Madam Chief, to ensure that the transition can be done. So I'm going to done talk, let the Minister and the Chief talk, but you have excited a passion in here, I suspect, for something that has been long in coming, but that must come. And I'll end on this. You know the source of our education system that we have today. It is the 1940s British Education Act.
That's true.
The British left it on the side of the road decades ago, and we holding on to it like a badge of honor. like if it is something that can carry us somewhere, when we have first-hand knowledge that it is killing the spirit of too many of our young people.
Madam Prime Minister, can I leave? I want, because I'm going to finish now, can I leave something with the Minister? As we are doing the reform, we have to definitely look at the primary system. Too many of our primary school children are just passing through the primary schools. And one of the problems is this. We need to have a systematic approach to examine our children for things like poor eyesight, poor hearing, things like autism, dyslexia, all these things.
Mr. Goddard,
Yes.
you and I getting back in time. You remember that Barbados became the first country in the entire Americas to test people for hearing, sight, and speech at 3 years old and 5 years old. When I was Minister of Education, I introduced it. Regrettably, it was abandoned. And not all under the last government. The reading program was equally abandoned. We have tried and we've said that, look, remember the criterion reference test?
Yes.
I introduced it. Why? Because you need to have a diagnostic tool to help the teachers teach, not true?
Yes.
Just like a doctor needs to know, to look at you and diagnose what's wrong with you, the teacher needs to diagnose and to know where are the gaps that need to be filled. And my simple thing is that we also need to better use technology to be able to test on a more continuous basis. We introduced the criterion reference test at 7 and 9 because that was what was available to us. But if you have software, and I know this is where the ministry is going, and I'll let the others talk, that can help us determine that you can't move to the next level without understanding the precepts at this level. Not true?
That's true.
I trying to learn Spanish, as I told you all, on software. Same thing. I can't move to the next level unless I learn at this level. So please, Kay and Madam Chief. I can beg for Mr. Goddard a little bit because this is a critical conversation, not just for the country, but for the people who actually attend this school.
Thank you, Prime Minister. And thank you, Mr. Goddard, for the question that you raised. I think the Prime Minister did an excellent job of laying the foundation, and as she has said, we have already sent the preliminary paper on reform, and she has to look at it, and then she will meet with us in the next couple of weeks. One of the things that we have to understand is that the system that have worked for some has not worked for all. And it is our intention to make sure that through this reform, we are able to make the education system work for as many people as it possibly can. Many people are good at different things, yet still we have only allowed the academic side of things to reign. We have used the common entrance exam as the only assessment tool to determine how they will matriculate. We have to look at different ways of assessing that will allow us to be able to place them where they are best. You heard the Prime Minister speak about the fact that there are people who learn differently, they have different interests, they have different intelligences. Whether it relates to music, whether it relates to sports, whether it relates to spatial things, people who are good with their hands, etc. However, our system does not celebrate every different type of intelligence there is. We hold on the side of academics. We recognize, therefore, that the reform that has to happen does not only have to happen as it relates to the structure of the system, how people move from primary to secondary, but we recognize that we also have to look at reforming the curriculum. Because the curriculum that we have used before does not necessarily put them in the best place to succeed in the world in which we are living, and that is continuing to emerge. We recognize that we have to place some emphasis in this reform on teachers, the quality of our teachers and their instruction. Because a child will not learn if the right environment, including the teaching methods, the teaching approaches, and the teachers themselves, are not able to inspire them and to impart what they need to and to help to recondition them. We recognize, you heard the Prime Minister speak about the fact that the environment of the school, the technologies that we use, giving them access to technologies. being able to make sure everyone is able to participate and we don't leave anyone behind, that has to be part of the reform process. So when we are talking about reform, we're not just talking about restructuring the system. We're talking about restructuring a whole, reforming a number of those other aspects, from curriculum to teaching to improving the quality outcomes to making sure that special needs children have more access and we have more places in the system for them that are appropriately suited to what they need to do in order to be able to be active and participating citizens in this country as well. So Prime Minister said to you that we will be having a number of persons come and be advisors to our team. We recognize we have to have advice as it relates to assessment. We have to have advice on how we will transition teachers as we start to restructure those systems. We have to have advice on the Education Act itself that is so far outdated. We have to have advice on curriculum. We have to have advice on a number of different areas. So I know, and I thank all of those persons who have offered their resources to the ministry to support us. We will be reaching out to many of you. And not only those people who are experts like yourself, sir, but as we go from parish to parish to parish to parish, once the Prime Minister and the Cabinet has done what it needs to do, we will make sure that the input that we get, not only from the experts, but from the parents and all of those who are impacted by this, that we take that into consideration as we seek to reform the entire system. The Prime Minister has said to you too that you can't jump up one morning and say this is what it was today and here is what it is tomorrow. Understand, and let's go to the very basics level. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with my mother, sitting down, putting out which schools I would go to. In this reform system, parents are going to ask the question, so when we have reformed this system, what do I sit down at that kitchen table and do with my child now? How will that change? What will we be thinking about that is different? And so all of that education will also have to happen before we can make the transition. So it isn't just changing the system. It is all those things associated. And finally, it is making sure that the people who are going to be impacted by the system, from parents to teachers and the whole society, that first you understand what is being done, why it is being done, but what your role must be in the process. So that is the first part. I know many people have many questions. I could go on, but I don't want to, because as Prime Minister said, this is for you to ask your questions. I hope that that at least gets you started to know that the reform has not happened. We will not go on with unless we bring the people along. And yes, there will be public consultation. And yes, that consultation will be taken into account before we come to a final policy of what we will do.
Okay, well, I'm going to take my seat, but Madam Minister, can I promise you, once I have an email address for you, I've written a paper on educational reform in Barbados. And I would want to pass it on to you for your consideration. You can reject everything, or you may look at to see what has happened. You and Dr. Bradshaw can look to see what is there. But please remember that there's need for public buy-in. We have to have public buy-in. And also remember that there is a link between education and some Attorney General, some of the crime we see in Barbados, there is a link because the system is educating people out. That's what a lot of what we're doing now. A lot of what we offer as education is, in fact, producing a number of dysfunctional young people. And a lot of the crime that we have can be traced to that. I'm not saying all of it, Mr. Attorney General, but some of it. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Goddard, and you're looking fit. You're still looking fit.
Good evening, Prime Minister, and a special good evening to the Minister of Education and the Chief. Good evening, all. Madam Prime Minister, I am still thrilled to say Madam Prime Minister in a Bajan context. I came this evening because I wanted to talk to you before you left office. We know it's two terms. We know there's a lot that you wanted to do that you weren't able to do. But there's one thing that I want you to do before you leave office.
Name again, sorry? What's your name again?
Oh, Daria Cave, sorry.
Thank you.
Daria Cave. Michelle Cave, too, the minister. Madam Prime Minister, it's summertime. The children are out of the structured, the protective school environment. I wrote some notes so that I wouldn't forget anything that I wanted to say.
Take your time.
Now, you've appropriately seen to ensuring the children are going to be fed. And we thank you for that. There's something I contend that children need more than food. Odd thing to say, I know. I contend that children, to grow into useful, participating citizens, need hurdles that they have to climb over. They have to jump over. They have to fail and then succeed and succeed. They have to fail many times before they succeed. There's a need I would suggest, in every human being to figure out risk, to accomplish something they didn't know they could do before. We don't have a lot of that in school. We try to protect them, right? We try to protect them physically. We try to protect them emotionally. I would like to suggest, on top of the camps for swimming, for sailing, even for surfing, a pump track in each parish, not aligned with a school, but a pump track that is a bike track with humps where they have to have skills, they have to develop their skills, their motor skills.
You mean an obstacle, like an obstacle track?
Like an obstacle course. In this way, children can figure themselves out, they can figure out what they're capable of. And I think that at the end of all of that, especially in summertime, I think that this skill that they're building will serve them in what we want to create as the Barbadian of the future. Now, I know that there's a fear some have of exposing children to risk. I know that. But I think in controlled ways, we can help them grow into adults that we are proud of, that they are proud of, and they're proud to be. Now, regarding the building of the pump track, it can be easily made with a bobcat and those heavy rolly things placed around the periphery of any pasture. Now, I'm suggesting we start with St. Martin's pasture, a 7-foot periphery can make the pasture, retain the multipurpose nature of the pasture. Now, this didn't come out of my head. This is research that has been implemented in Singapore, in Sweden, in Finland, in Norway. So I've spoken to Neil Murrell at the Sports Council. I've spoken to Minister Griffith, and they all like the idea. But I have a feeling that there's something keeping them back. And I am sure with the permission and the resources for these children that we can absolutely get this done. If you give me the permission and the resources, I will definitely get it done.
Okay, well, I'm sure that Mr. Murrell is here and he wants to speak.
Come, sir.
Good evening to all. And this is the first time I'm meeting Ms. Cave after our many conversations, and I just want to allay her fears. Only last week, we went to Featherbed Lane in St. John by Ms. Hines, and I rode on a pump track. I can show you the video. And just this morning, we went by St. Martin's. I had another meeting with Ms. Wilcher up there to lay some palm trees out there. And myself and my technical officer, we looked at the area for the pump track. So you will get your pump track at St. Martin's, and we have identified another area at King George V Memorial Park. So we just, Ms. Hines at Featherbed Lane indicated that it's a process. It's not just putting down mud. The mud has to dry and so on. So she went through the process with us. She indicated Delano, I think maybe her son or something like that, builds it. So we, this morning, we indicated that we will bring Delano up to St. Martin. We have identified the area, and we will have your pump track in a few months. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Who's next?
Good evening to all. My name
Good evening, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Sonia Nichols. I'm a resident of Jamesway Park. I have been asked by the neighborhood watch group to inform the representative, the Honorable Mr. Ware, of the need for road repairs. Our roads are in very bad condition. We are of the opinion that they need to be resurfaced, and at least the potholes that exist should have been filled like yesterday. So we are asking for your urgent attention with respect to Jamesway Park. Nothing has been done with the road since the development of that area around 1980 or so. Okay. The other thing, I am a little confused, and I think in his capacity now as Minister of Agriculture, and maybe the Prime Minister who has the entire cabinet, and I know who has spoken recently, both of you have given little tidbits recently with respect to the sugar industry. And where I am presently employed, BAMC. Now, I first want to establish if BAMC is a private company limited, or if it is an SOE, as I am now here being referred to. Which one of the two?
State-owned enterprise, but it's a limited liability company, I believe. But it's a state-owned enterprise. In other words, SOE only means that the government is the shareholder.
Thank you. Now, here is a big question. Is there any possibility, there are some of us who are very close to retirement at age 65, and there are some who would be going maybe within the next 2 years. Those of us in that group, we want to know if there is any consideration at all for retirement to be extended to age 67, as it is the new retirement age.
Now, I mean, the speaker is absolutely correct. This is a matter under the BAMC. The BAMC has a cutoff
One meeting,
of
please.
65,
One meeting.
65 years, and I've already discussed it with Ambassador Clyde Maskell, and we're looking at changing the age. But BAMC is being transitioned now into a company that would have ownership by the private sector. And therefore, all of those matters are going to be addressed when we do the transitioning of the BAMC. BAMC has been in operation for a while and dependent heavily on government financing. There's a whole set of work that we have to do. We have just received the report from the consultants. We are still in the process of discussing it. But whenever we do the transition from BAMC into the new company, that will own the sugar industry, that will allow for the BAMC farms to be more efficiently managed. All of those issues will be considered and dealt with.
And finally, now let me say, I have been in the industry since 1981, so I have been through, there's so many transitioning that this industry has been going through. When I went in, it was Barbados Sugar Factories Limited, which managed the sugar factories. And then you had the Sugar Producers Association, which managed the estates, plantations. Those were amalgamated in 1983 and became BSIL. So BSIL went into receivership. Then it was turned back over from the receivership to BSIL, which became defunct as it operated then. All of this time, governments have been pumping money into a company, and every time there have been so many consultations, reports. To be honest with you, I became so frustrated. So I am hoping, yes, I overheard that there were recent consultations or something like that. I don't know the extent. I'm not operating where I used to operate before, but I'm hoping that something will be done. Now, coming to the Prime Minister to congratulate her on this.
Do that. Let me put my 2 cents worth on that too. I empathize with you because your clear description of the journey of the sugar industry over the last 40 years has been nothing other than torturous. And Barbados now has perhaps the worst performing sugar industry in the world in terms of costs. And we can't continue. And we have to confront it and face our future and fix it. What we are hoping, as you would know, a sugar factory operates, 3 months a year? But we now operate in a world where we recognize a sugar factory is really nothing but a power factory. And therefore, what other feedstock, because Barbados only has 1 crop a year, there's some countries that have 2 crops, etc. What other feedstock can we use in order to turn a 3-month power factory into a 12-month power factory? Now, if the truth be told, I don't even want to add up the amount. I told Indar, for the records, do it. But the hundreds of millions of dollars that we have pumped into the sugar industry in this country, still to end up being among the worst performing industries in the world is unacceptable. And when I hear me say that I feel as though this government is Electrolux, you now understand what I mean. Because all we're doing is trying to clean up, clean up, clean up. By the same token, it's not just the public sector, because the report that we are just receiving shows that there are some private sector farms who are only getting 9 tons as well per acre, which is that's 1/3 of what the average should be. We have to stop. And this may be about sugar, but it is really about too many other aspects of our country. We can do better, and I want us to do better. But it is going to mean that we're going to have to be honest with the person in the mirror. And we're going to have to be able to say, how much more can we do to make what we are doing more efficient and better? The one thing I've learned about agriculture is that timeliness matters.
Oh, yeah.
You have to do things to time. If you don't do them to time, it's not going to work. Secondly, over the years when you haven't replaced or maintained factory equipment, what happens? It's of no use. It's of no use. So what we have is a mess. And what we're trying to do is to restructure it and repurpose it. We also have land still under state control. And I've said to them, if you can come up with a lean machine that can also do that and give me 25 to 30 tons per acre, then we could talk. Other than that, the taxpayers' money got to stop where it belongs.
Excellent.
You understand? And why do we need a sugar industry for those of you who want to say, well, just walk away from it? The truth is that Barbados needs some kind of grass crop to help bind the soil and to help us also rotate with the vegetables and root crops that we need to feed ourselves. And we now know that food security must be at the top of our list. Because the day that that ship stopped coming, what are you going to do? Last week when we were meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, I asked people, what's big grain rice? A lot of people don't know what how many people here know what big grain rice is? It's sweet potato, but it seemed to be like the minority in here know. So I hear you. We feel the pain, we feel the issues, but I want you to know, and all I've asked of the minister, like I've asked of all other ministers, let us talk through the issues with people, let us find a plan, let us work and fix, and let us be straight with people, because we're dealing with people's lives in every instance. So I thank you for that and for raising it. The truth is that we also have to do some rationalization of the Barbados Agricultural Credit Trust. That was the entity that took a lot of the plantations, as you know, and the lands that were indebted to the old, well, ultimately it was the Barbados National Bank, but before that it was the Agricultural Bank, etc. And we're trying to work out how we can do and bring that to closure. Mr. Thompson set that up 30 years ago, but it was intended to be set up for a purpose and then worked his way out. We haven't reached that point. So I've insisted to Minister Ware that we are going to get it cleaned up. Why? Because for every dollar we spend there, it's a dollar less that we spend on education and healthcare and road works and other critical things. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. This is the final point I wanted to make when I said I wanted to congratulate you. I've heard you in the media speaking and being adamant with respect to the funding of the industry, the company in particular. And I congratulate you because there are others before you, whether it was a B or a DLP administration, that should have taken the step that you have taken firmly and boldly. For too long, it was just an upside-down funnel. Okay, it paid me, yes, but just
thank you for your frankness too.
Yes, and yes, this is the final point. This is what I want to say. You say that, in other words, monies can be spent in education, and this will be now coming to the Honorable Doctor. Two things really irritated me when I compared and when I looked, at what was happening within the industry and the other two areas, and you mentioned them, education and health. I had two very bad experiences. And I was a pain patient. My husband was a pain patient at QE. And when I realized the shortcomings, when doctors say they didn't have this or that to work with, it was very hurtful. And again, it comes back to my mind, why can't somebody stop throwing money into this place and put some money, at least in my situation, into health. I thank you.
Thank you for your frankness, Ms. Nichols. Thank you very much. And with respect to the roads, not only did he submit them, but he carried me down there to see some and also some of the drainage. And I want to be honest once again. The state of the roads that we inherited was awful because we didn't do a lot of road work in this country for years. Just before the government changed, the last government started the IDB Global Program. That's the one that has in the roads that we were talking about at the beginning. We are trying our best between the CAF program, the IDB, the Scotland District, and you heard me in the paper say that basically over the next 3-4 years, the government will spend probably close to $500 million on roads because there's a lot of, and what is even worse than the roads, as I see, Rommel, is the bridges, because we need to ensure that the bridges that we have, many of which have not been touched for decades, and when I say decades, I mean 60, 70 years in some instances, that we need to ensure that there is safety for people using them. So I want to ask people to work with us as best as I would want to twiddle my nose and say abracadabra. We can't do it. But little by little by little, we're going to get there to get as many of them done in the next 4 to 5 years. Okay? Thank you. And I take your point that before we build new ones, if we can't start it new, the depot can also, Mr. Boyne and others, come and fix the potholes, fill the potholes to minimize the dislocation, Ms. Dean. All right?
Good evening. My name is Ramel Griffith, and I have been waiting for a surgery at the QH for 14 years now. Total hip replacement surgery.
LeBron, come. You come. Alex, please talk to him right away. All right? You should not have to come out here to do that, and I can defend you as much as I can. He said 14 years, right? He said? Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister, and to the rest of your committee. I am here this evening to...
Sorry, what's the name?
Ian Drakes from St. Philip North.
Ian Drakes, thank you.
Ian Drakes.
Good to meet you, sir.
Yes, please. My concern is that after waiting 20-something years to own a piece of the rock, I was sold what I shall say, a house, which is now my home. And with your vision as an opposition leader at the then 2018, walking through Carpenter Glade and Parshland, you have identified every single problem that the residents in Carpenter Glade is being affected by right now. The broken tile, the tiles being blown, pipes inside the wall and bursting daily. We have a number of issues that I think we can't get fixed because there have been so much promises.
This is Carpenter's
Glade and Parshland.
That's the houses that was left.
Yes, please.
Lock up for about 6-7 years.
And you foresee all the problems that we, the residents, is having right now. We had a meeting with the Honorable Sonia Brown and the then Minister of Housing, Dr. William Duguid. And he reassured us, the residents, that he is going to have these problems rectified. Let me say that we had a meeting with, may he rest in soul, Mr. Alain, the then General Manager at Housing, but he passed away, so I guess some of our issues passed away with him. We also had a foreman or superintendent up there who started to assist us in our falls. It so happens that he was so good, they shifted him. I was living there from 2019. When I first moved in my house, it was nice and pretty. You know, you're glad to move in a house. You're happy. You got your children, you feel good, and you move to this house. But you know, whole and behold, after 3 months, I came home one day, and the rain was falling, and the house was closed up, but still open. The rain was pouring inside the house, and up to today, it is still pouring in my house. I was told that we're going to have, mind you, Mr. Duguid set up meetings with one of his officers from housing, and every week, religiously, we just have a Wednesday meeting dealing with the issue. This is the list. This is the list from the residents. And there are more now because there are more residents moving. But then in 2020, this was the list. I have the list. I have the letter from Mr. Duguid. Mind you, I came home. Children went to school, came home. Vacation came, which is around December. When they went back for children's school, mole on the children's school shoes. So I had to go buy more school shoes. Mind you, it's been hard.
You ain't gonna sit more. Minister of Housing, Mr. Sutherland, can you please meet with Mr. Drakes and have your people at NHC follow up? This,
Madam,
hold on, I want to say this, and you referred to the fact that I predicted this, and I didn't predict it to say that I told you so, but it don't take a Solomon to know that you can't keep a house locked up for 6 or 7 years in the hot sun. It's just not going to thing. And the bottom line is that it is all of these things that we're cleaning up now, and there's only so much that we have to do what we need to do. So I really would like us, and I'd like Dwight meet with them, send a report to us at Cabinet, let us see what the issues are. We will tell you what we can do and to try and move and improve things for you. But the bottom line is, this is the kind of foolishness that has brought us to government.
Madam Prime Minister, I just walked through my house, and when I walk through my house, you hear the toes under my feet pixing, and I have 3 children in my house. This ain't fair.
I hear you, you know, why you think I tell the minister to meet with you all and give us a report? I'm not joking.
But I've been hearing such things over and over.
You never talked to me to...
that way come today. Madam Prime Minister, that way come today.
And the minister is there, and in fairness, he has to rely on his officers. He will work with them, meet with you all. He understands the issues.
Okay, just 1 or 2 more points, please. We have been...
And I assume that there's a representative body or a few of you who can meet to represent the others.
We had a group.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
On that note as well, you have brought us to a neighborhood where there's a lot of children in the neighborhood right now.
And no playing facilities.
And no playing facilities. And one of the things that I want to state...
Go up there as well and see whether we can at least get in a road tennis court or something up in there for them, please.
One of the things why I am so passionate about this is because one afternoon the kids was actually playing football in the road. And one of the balls hit one of the residents' vehicle, and if you see the manner in how he treated the children, weren't right. So we would like a small space carved out for the children.
I can't remember if you have a lot of land up there left.
There isn't a lot of land, but there's a space either below or above that we can actually carve out a little space for our children.
Minister Griffiths will come, but this is a case of bad planning. But I also want to say, and Mr. Lord, I'm glad you're here too. When I went doing rubbing shoulders on Saturday again with the MPs from St. Philip, And it carried me to all these developments. And St. Philip perhaps has a lot more than most parishes. And we have to tighten up because we have allowed private developers to get away with murder in this country and to come in and do developments. The roads aren't done properly. They put people's houses in flood areas, all kinds of madness. And that's why people may sometimes get a little anxious and think with town planning, but there's a reason for planners like Mr. Lord and the ones in the planning department, because we need to make sure that you're not only building, but you're building safely and you're building wisely. And that if you have obligations that to be able to deal with the development, you need to have a playing area in every development. Because at the end of the day, the devil finds what? So that unless you have, when I was Attorney General, they would tell you, and he continued it, and that's why Charles and them also are finishing the lighting program that Dwight started. If we don't give people opportunities, when people finish running about till 11 and 12 o'clock at night and hot and sweaty, where they going? Home. You understand? So that we have to create as much recreational areas as possible and community areas as possible in order to let us go forward. Okay?
And one point before you go. Outside the main road is like on evenings, when it's 6 o'clock, it's more like 12 o'clock in the night. And we have a lot of
You don't have street lights?
Not on the main road. Not on the entrance to come into Carpenter Glade.
Okay, Dr. Brown says she has sent in the request for the street lights. We'll have to talk to Light and Power about that. Okay?
Very much so. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Nikolai coming. Nikolai, who on one side, I let people in St. Philip talk, or we can talk to you last. I know, but you talked last minute, St. George speak. So let the rest talk first, and then we come to you at the end. I ain't gonna fool you. But and you have access to a platform. If you don't, I will create it for you. Thank you, Star. Yes.
Good night, Madam Prime Minister. Good night to the panel. Good night to my parliamentary representative in the rear. Respect.
Sorry, what's your name?
My name is Andre Petit, and I'm here to discuss maritime transportation problems, and I'm here to discuss in terms of solving the issue of maritime transportation. Okay, I'm the founder and CEO of Azalea Ferries Limited. I'm here to talk about the maritime transportation problems facing the Caribbean region and offer a solution by starting a brand new ferry service to operate in the Caribbean region from North, Central, and Southern Caribbean. My company, Azalea Ferries Limited, will be looking to transport both passengers and specialized roll-on, roll-off containers or cargo using high-speed fast ferries of the catamaran design. Azalea Ferries will be looking to operate to the islands of Northern Caribbean, which are Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, and Cuba. Central Caribbean, Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Antigua. Southern Caribbean, Barbados, Trinidad, Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and Guyana. Now, port infrastructure is another issue in the Caribbean region. Port infrastructure, in terms of ferry terminals, need to be built in certain Caribbean islands. Modern port infrastructure needs to be upgraded. I know Barbados Port is doing upgrading of the shallow draft area at present, but also St. Vincent is now looking to do a new port facility in St. Vincent. But Guyana needs to build a proper seaport facility to accommodate both passenger vessels as well as the cargo vessels of post-Panama size, which go to Panama Canal via North and Southbound, via South America. Please note what the CARICOM Commission stated that US $100 million could start a fast ferry service is foolishness. it will take more than US $100 million to start the regional fast ferry service. Let's look at the failure of LIAT. LIAT was our regional airline carrier for years, but the people who were managing it were causing the issues of LIAT downfall. LIAT made losses for years, but still continued to operate under poor management. If governments of the region put money in LIAT again, it will fail again. Bring something new to the table, like a new airline, for the benefit of the region. Azalea Ferries will be looking to transport.
One meeting, please. Mr. Petit, you may have to come a little closer because I got a lot of people behind. So if you want to get to the point, I think that you're talking about maritime transportation and air transport.
Yes.
What's the core of the point you want to make?
I'm trying to bring all these points here first, and then I will finish.
That's the background knowledge. So just ask me the question or tell me what you want to say as the core of the point.
But I came here with a plan.
So you want to write us, and I'm going to ask Mr. Morris, who is my Director of Citizen Engagement, and if you can write us and we can follow through and
I
advise.
already wrote to Madam Prime Minister.
But this is in respect of wanting to do what with the ferry or LIAT?
I have already written at you. I got in the response. Three was supposed to get a meeting with the three persons, Minister of Tourism, Minister of Finance.
So we need to follow up with the people that we asked to meet with you.
Well, nobody responded.
Okay,
in regards
so
to that
no
matter.
problem. I hear you. Mr. Morris will follow up, but you have a proposal that has been sent in to them that they can do an analysis of?
If I have a proposal,
Yeah, if you have one.
I send the information to your ministry already.
No problem. So all I'm saying, I get 1,000 letters every month.
Okay.
You understand? So I can't remember each one.
All right.
And that's why I have a Director of Citizen Engagement, and I will make sure that if we had passed it on to another ministry to have conversations with you, to make sure that they can follow through, Mr. Morris. Yeah?
Okay.
That's fair?
Understood. But I have one more point before I go.
No problem.
This point goes out to my minister in Darwin. Okay? The steps at Phobia Beach, by where Pure Beach Resort was to get built under the DLP administration. The handrails are rusting out and needs to be repaired, which means the handrails down bottom, where the handrails are. They needs to be repaired and painted, and there's an old grape tree that is dead and is in need of cutting with a chainsaw because it's hanging over the handrails. Get a welder to repair the handrails and also get a community group or get persons doing community service to paint the handrails at Phobia Beach, aka 120 steps. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And don't go, Mr. Petit. Roy, Mr. Petit, come forward and just meet with Mr. Morris to get the contact number for you. Okay? Thanks a million. Okay, can we allow the other gentleman to speak, please? Thanks.
Madam Prime Minister, members of Cabinet, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Ray St. Philip South. I have a few things to say, but I'll start with my representative. I give him
recognize
kudos.
the name from the paper.
Yeah, I write.
I know. And
From time to time.
And I listen and write or read
Mark's
and know what you say.
Mark's dad.
Okay.
Mark's dad. I want to give kudos to my representative for being, I believe, part of the movement to get the sugar industry off the backs of taxpayers. I know that you will be part of that. On the other hand, I want you to look at a road. It costs a lot of money. From Curtains up to Crane, on the left-hand side going up, you got to drive on the right-hand side, not to burst a tire or damage more of your left side shocks. Anybody from St. Philip South would know that. I travel it every day. Beg the minister responsible for road works to deal with that.
Mr. Springer is here.
You want to respond to that? I see you're taking the mic.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm
All
saying,
right.
I'm saying, Mr. Ray, that the officers from Ministry of Public Works are here, so that they will also take a note of it as of I.
I am very
Okay?
proud of that.
Thank
I'm
you.
very glad that they're here. So I wouldn't have to go to Mark's Auto Spares, although he would like the money, and the other guy down at 6 Roads. I have to change my left shocks all the time. So you tell me don't change one, change both, back and front, so it's 4. Anyhow, that's an aside. But seriously now, I want to look at foreign direct investment. I have about 3 things, and in the interest of time, I will be very brief. I think the governments before and this current government are going too far afield with foreign direct investment. They should facilitate local people, wherever possible, to be engaged in things like the cave. I am sorry to know that Jamaicans, I know they got all the expertise, but I feel there are local people, and if we are all together in it, we need to bring all together as part of, in other words, let us lift ourselves up by our own bootstraps, rather than bringing people from outside, and we have people who you come and ask for a vote. So why don't overemphasize it? I understand foreign direct investment and foreign currency, yes, but let us have a balance.
That's actually not the reason why. In many instances, and we're going to hear us talk about it more and more, part of the difficulty is that in some instances there is a deficit in terms of capacity, not just money, because if you notice the government's policy on investment, who have I come to first? Who has the government come to first? On the renewable energy with the photovoltaic panels, who we coming to first? Bajans, owner-occupied houses, give you a chance to earn the passive income instead of just allowing lumpy investment from overseas. 2, the boss bonds that we announced, plus again on the weekend. Bottom line, we're going to borrow the money because we need to borrow the money to finance the deficit. But we can go, as the AG will tell you, regionally, and we can go internationally. But why should we go and give them 4 and 5% return on money when we can offer to you here in Barbados, who getting 0.01%, that opportunity to participate in those bonds and to let you help build your country? Here is the difficulty. I get you, Mr. Ray, because as I say, I am an ardent follower of your letters in the paper. It's a hard thing to bear, but we have capacity issues in the country. And it's largely because we have not necessarily been growing. We can't do everything that we want to do, so that sometimes you have to open up and let others come in and also assist. In some instances, and I think in that particular instance with the cave, there was an opportunity for them to have investment from the credit unions and others in there. The benefit of the entity who is doing it is that they have a slew of other investments across the region and the marketing capacity for it. We're not going to be able to keep all things for ourselves because no island can cut off from the rest of the world. But at the same time, we are putting Barbadians first in as many areas as possible. We also recognize that the country has a serious problem, and the National Population Commission report will come out shortly. In 1950, we had twice the population of Bahamas and Belize, more than twice. We were about 200,000 odd, and they were much below. They were about 80-something thousand. Do you know that both countries today have 400,000 people, and we're struggling to get 290? So that part of the difficulty is we have perfected, we did exceptionally well at family planning. Barbados do better at family planning more than any other country in the Americas from the 50s. We also had migration and people going out. And a lot of the skill set that you may think that is naturally available here, regrettably, sir, is not available in the way that we would need it, especially in a modern Barbados. There are admittedly a lot of people in skills in one particular area, but then you have gaps in another area. And we have to do a far better job of smoothing out the labor market and making sure that we are training people for the areas and deficiencies in which we need them. If we don't have them, that is when we bring them in. Okay?
I don't want to belabor the point. I don't want to belabor the point. All I am saying is we need to have a balance. We need it.
I agree with you on the balance.
Right.
And that's why, that's why I say to
Right.
you, I gave you those examples. But
I understand, ma'am.
And on the renewable energy one, just for the benefit of everybody else, I know of no other country in the world that has said to its people, take the renewable energy first before we bring in large people with large investments. So we've carved that out for our people first in terms of the quantum before we bring the others.
Yes, and Ma'am, I understand what you're saying. I hope you understand my perspective. There are hundreds of, not hundreds, tens of thousands of people, residential people, who, I shouldn't say by right or whatever, but should have PV panels on their roofs.
That's what we're offering them
that's
now.
it. That's all. And
Are we offering that now?
Well, we agreed on that.
There's no other country in the world that is saying that as of right, give you that. And in fact, you will soon see this roll out with people not having, because if we had to take 50,000 applications, it would take how long to go through them? So what they're trying to do is to show people what the standards are, and you comply. If you comply with the standards, you go ahead.
Yeah. All right. I'm speaking now for old people like me. Old people, yeah, people that reverse mortgages. I hear some of my friends, some older than me, some who are bankers, and I ask, why can't a man who had a 25-year mortgage, who is paid for it, retired, asset rich, but cash poor? Why does the Ministry of Finance don't have a chat with the banks and the insurance companies and the other financial institutions and say, look, if my house is valued at $300,000, you want to give me a little $30,000 and let my children and grandchildren, who will be the beneficiaries, put that in there. Why is it so difficult for these things to happen?
I, like you, support it. But
Thank
it
you.
is not straightforward.
I hope I see some movement on it.
No, I'm also telling you it's not straightforward. And
I know.
therefore, we are in deep conversation because in many instances, two banks don't like to be the ones coming to take up people's property after somebody died.
You don't have to,
Straight up.
man. But
Understood. But that is because in other jurisdictions, they've had the experience of the children and others not wanting to
there's a
come forward.
Thailand, I went on the net only 3 days ago. There's a Thailand model. It may not be the perfect one. There is a Thailand model, and they have it in Australia, the UK, New Zealand, and all these places. I will beg you, ma'am, as Minister of Finance, have a look at it.
I will
Okay,
certainly
I
do so.
in
but
the
for
interest
the
of time, I
benefit-
want to move on.
I know,
Give
except
other
that
people
for
a
the
chance.
benefit of the people who are listening to us, they need to understand the issue too. And the point is that we can't assume that the people who are inheriting the house have the capacity to continue the mortgage payments. And that's part of the difficulty. It's not impossible. It's not an impossible route. But what you need is willing players. And right now, we have been trying to deal with the banks on other critical areas, including digital payments and including fees, in order to be able to move forward. But I hear you, and I give you the assurance that, remember I told you that I had to deal with needs first before wants? This is an area that we will continue to see how best we can deconstruct and see if it can happen.
Right.
But I ain't gonna fool you and tell you that it can happen next week or
In
next
the
month.
same vein, ma'am, in the same vein, I believe I may be the lone bird that does not make, I may be the one swallow that does not make a summer. But I believe that we need a Barbados National Bank, so whether it's competition or facilitating, and let the Canadian people know where we are.
Enough said.
Let me go on.
Enough said. You may know more than you think.
Right. Education. My friend John Goddard, from the same constituency as me, I know he loves a lot of things, educator and so on. I want to say, I am not an educator, but I have two sons. And he talk about Combermere. I went to Combermere. My son went to Combermere. So I can boast about some Combermere, but I will not pull down Princess Margaret. I will not pull down St. George Secondary. I will not pull down Grantley Adams. I will not pull down Ellerslie. But I am proud of Waterford University. So anybody that see me can look at me. Right? Okay, but what I want the Minister of Education to do is to look at. Personally, I'm against getting rid of the exam. Personally, I did not sit it. I sat for 3 schools in 1959. So you know I'm an old man. 59, and subtract that from 2022, and you know I was long before you there, Dale. I was at that school long before you, right? But the point is this. Rather than just get rid of the exam, line, hook, and sinker, you need to look at, somebody must have said this before me. I am reinventing the wheel. Look at curriculum reform, broaden the curriculum so that guys who are not like David Eswick and Trevor Clark and Butcher, former headmaster who went to this school in my parish, brilliant scholars. I want the curriculum to be broadened so that if a fella is not as good as those 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 brilliant scholars from this school, to be able to be good wiremen, plumbers, whatever skills, vocational skills, hands-on manual skills. Germany does it. A lot of the European countries, they don't only look at lawyers, doctors, and accountants. They look at people who can build a house, build a road, and those kinds of hands-on things. So let me leave that.
Let's respect and give him some quiet, please.
Yeah. I want to go on because I'm going to finish up here. I did with the 11 plus. The last thing, I believe that one of the ways to help the average John public to feel part of the economic running of the country is, for example, I can just use one. You see, Barbados National Oil Company. I am prejudiced about the Barbados Light and Power Company. They have been around for nearly over a century. their interests, I believe, I don't want to be slanderous, but I think their interest is not in parallel or in congruence or symmetry, not the one you bury dead people, in symmetry, mathematically, are not in alignment with our interests. And I believe that a serious government that have the interests of ordinary working class people should form a PPP, float some shares of prospectus on the market, and let fellas that working for the same people complain about the $200 and $300 a week, that they could take a little bit out the wage packet and as part of a share. And it will grow, it will move on. But I don't believe that the Barbados Light and Power should have all the, and I'm hearing only 2 days ago about something in Parliament. I am against that. And I hope it does not counter with the Constitution, whatever is being placed in your domain. I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. What I will say to you, Mr. Ray, and for your benefit, that the gentleman to my right, anything that goes to Parliament, be it a bill or be it a resolution, can't get there unless he certifies it as being consistent with the Constitution. On the broader matter, the truth is, let us be straight. We don't have a lot of money sitting down to do things. Barbados has to focus on the things that we must focus on now. And the things that we can't own or invest, we need to regulate and facilitate. And that's what's happening now. But thank you. And I want to encourage you to continue your writing. I ain't going to agree with everything you write.
I know.
But what I love about you, no, I'm serious, and I want everybody to hear me. Last year we passed the Charter of Barbados in Parliament, and it called for us to encourage people for active citizenship. And you live it and reflect it each week. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, ma'am.
Before the next speaker, please note the time. We're past 8 o'clock. We're going on till 9, so just keep it brief as possible. And may I ask those who are speaking from the other side as well to respond succinctly.
Hey, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari, Empress Menenai. Give thanks and praises to be here in the presence of my Prime Minister. I hear people call you Auntie Mia. But I'll call you Sister PM. My sister, I can't speak on two things.
What's your name again? I know your face good, but I can't remember your name.
Ras Martin.
Ras Martin.
Right, give thanks. There's two things that is very important to my community. That is reparations and obviously cannabis, in my terms, ganja. Now, since ganja get put on the table for a period of months now, I haven't seen any movement towards the brothers and sisters that went through the real hardship, some of them still languishing in prison on charges. You know, I feel that you can't start wrong and finish right. I feel that in order to get this cannabis industry up on the right footing, one must seek to show some form of reparations to the ones that paid the price. Brothers and sisters are still finding it difficulty to get their records clean. It hinders them in employment and travel. And for that to continue, when ones are actively trying to push a new industry in the island, which I agree with, it could replace sugarcane. But the thing is that you wouldn't like it to replace sugarcane and remain in the hands of the same people that had the sugarcane for all these years. After paying such a high price. I think the same approach you are using with the renewable energy to see that small people get first, I feel that my community, as Rastafari, should not have to look for any big license fees in order to continue a trade that they pay with their life. Now, I appreciate what you were saying, what you all have done in terms of the sacramental rights for Rastafari. But every Rastaman don't go to the tabernacle. Every Rastaman or woman don't even sometimes belong to any house or mansion. They're just naturally Rastafari. So the sacramental would not benefit them. And personally, the sacramental rights alone is a burden to me because, as the book says, man can't live by bread alone. You can't live by sacrament alone. There got to be some form of financial benefits involved in my sacramental rights. So I would like the Prime Minister and those who are in position to hear the Rastaman plea to give us a break. Up to now, there's still too much harassment for small quantities of ganja. In some islands in the Caribbean, you're allowed to have 2, 3, or 3 trees at home, 2 ounces on your person. And nothing so is available for us here. Brothers from down the islands of Malison, Barbados still tight here. And it's true. We want, once in the audience might ask, how you could get it there and talk about ganja with so much crime in the island and all kind of thing, right? But really and truly, it's the illegality of ganja that really caused the problem, not the ganja itself. An elder just get put out here under the influence of alcohol. That's legal. You know what I mean? These are prime examples you can look and see.
Rasmali, let me help you, man.
Help my sister PM.
Let me help you. I'm going to ask Dale to speak, the AG to speak, because I think that the country knows where we're going. We started, as you correctly said, with the medicinal cannabis, and Indar will speak to that and the opportunities we're trying to create for Bajans in there in the renewable energy, just like you said just now. Indar can speak to it because he knows that and represents the fact that the government is passionate about this. The problems that we're having with the industry have more to do with banking than to do with the industry. So that's straight, but he will explain. And then the AG will tell you about, after we did the medicinal cannabis, we did the sacramental, and then we did the ticketing so that nobody has to go. And as far as I know, he will explain to you with the situation with the records. I got to go and do something that only I could do for myself. So I can let him do that, but I can hear from outside. All right? Thank you.
Yes, sir. First of all, let me remind you, or remind the public, that we have been approaching the issue of decriminalization of cannabis in a gradual way. Now, what we have done, and I'm afraid that you really should be defending us, because 2 years ago we passed a law, or was it last year, which said that if you had less than 14 grams of cannabis.
Pause there, not crossing you, but was that information passed on to the police force?
Of course, yeah. I think I see where the challenge might be, but the information has been passed on to the police force, and they have actually been ticketing individuals. Now I can't speak about what may happen on the street, but I can tell you what the law is, and the law says that a person with that small amount of cannabis is ticketed.
That's actually in law.
That is the laws of Barbados proclaimed and everything. The police the tickets have been printed, so there's absolutely no issue. So if the person has more than that amount of cannabis, then that's a charge.
So that means the police is walk with a scale?
No. The police have a fair amount of experience, and you know this, right? But give me a minute. The police have We're talking. If the police hold an individual, and the individual says, is less cannabis than you say it is, then he's entitled to go to court and defend himself. All right? But the whole point is that we wanted to stop what was happening where young men, young women, all women, who have a small amount of cannabis for their personal consumption found themselves facing a criminal charge, okay? We felt the time had come for us to move away from that. But also, there's the other side, because when the police stop an individual and charge them, he then has to take up time to write up statements and all kind of stuff. And then, of course, our magistrates courts then have to take up magisterial time and contribute to the backlog. So we passed the law. I will have a discussion with the commissioner because I think that you're saying to me that it is not being followed by the police officers. That's where you're going, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I will have a word with the commissioner and his senior officers and tell them that this is what I understand. Obviously, you may not be able to share a specific instance with me, but we know that individuals are being ticketed. The other matter has to do with the criminal records. That particular statute also said that anybody who was convicted of having that small quantity of cannabis in their possession, that their criminal record is automatically expunged. So you don't have to apply for any expungement. It is automatically expunged. So if such an individual applies for a certificate of character, that charge, that conviction, should no longer be on his certificate of character.
What about the brothers and sisters that are in prison right now, sitting down while we discussing
But
selling
but you're talking now about a different kettle of fish because they will
Oh,
be
you see,
there. They will be there for trafficable quantities. And
But
traffic,
that's the law,
the
the
law
matter. Now,
is the law.
these is people that would have paid the price. Especially dealing with ones that in prison sitting down, that only strike against them will be having ganja, regardless of the quantity.
No,
but I mean,
you
without
can't say-
violence,
you can't say
without
regardless
guns.
of the quantities.
But no, why say that?
You-
Why
you
say that?
only-
When the police raid your yard, right, and they pull up trees, they wear the mud on the root, the stems, the bark. When you all start the cannabis industry, you all will realize that you only use the bud, right, Mr. Weir? So when a policeman hold me with a tree or two, the man ain't even the pot that they plant in.
I'm happy that you've brought that to my attention. No, it's a serious issue. It's a serious issue. Listen, police have an awesome responsibility in this country.
I know that.
And I will never tolerate any law enforcement officer. The Prime Minister will never tolerate any law enforcement officer playing fast and loose with the rights of citizens, okay? You can't, you're telling me something that I am
But
not
am I right or
first
wrong?
time.
When you see a truck loaded, when you see a truck, Mr. Prime Minister,
that they wear the plant pot.
no, what I was explaining to him.
That's like the people who is wear the box with macaroni.
Listen, Mr. Prime Minister.
I'm conscious of the time though and the others behind you.
But this is
so
just a
what I
serious
want
job.
the
I
AG
just
to do.
want to make one more point though for the benefit of everybody. In relation to having their records expunged, as long as they fit the requirements, there's absolutely no difficulty with getting the records expunged. If it is being delayed, please feel free to reach out to me and I will look into it.
So there's no hope for the ones that are already indicted.
No, that is already where?
In prison.
No, but you can't get your record expunged until you have left prison and go through the rehabilitation.
But can't there
time.
be a pardon for some ones that are in there just for simple possession?
Possession as opposed to trafficking.
Well,
simple
the Attorney
possession
General
is a
just
small
tell me
amount.
that according to the weight, it would determine. If I have a trafficable amount, might be just over 2 ounces. I don't know where you can traffic with that, but.
Look, give the AG, look, this is the first Attorney General who has come to office to try to make right things from wrong with respect to the persecution. And the truth is that 100 years ago, the CARICOM Commission on this showed that 100 years ago, this was not a crime.
Wasn't it?
It became a crime because of how the world moved. but there are international conventions and all kinds of things. And that's why we've been doing it gradually. I want to invite you and a representative group to meet with a few members of cabinet, okay? The Attorney General and some others. In terms of the Minister of People Empowerment, I saw him in here just now, and a few others, because there are some issues that we are trying to grapple with. I think you also know that this is the first Minister of Agriculture that has ever put on the table the ability to lease at a peppercorn rent. And I've told them that once the arrangements are in place for us to do a proper conveyance to the legal entity, that we should do that too. To give people from the Rastafarian faith the opportunity to have access to over 60 acres of land. And it's not necessarily the end, but it was a good start in the last term to be able to help.
That's you mean for grinder cultivation, or that's for agriculture?
For agricultural cultivation, food security. You got to earn a living too.
Right.
You
Well,
gotta
we give thanks for the land that was granted at Bath.
Exactly. And what I'm saying, that's just a start. I don't want it to end there.
Right.
So I want to encourage us. You know that I'm sympathetic to the faith.
You quote him Bob all the time, sir.
I hear what you say.
You quote him Bob. So you have some sort of sympathy with the faith.
Yeah. I quote him Bob all the time. That's right. But I'm sympathetic also because I've also all my life engaged with different people and I've been close to different people. And I feel that for too long in the region that there was a marginalization of good men and women. Okay? We want this government to integrate you fully into all that is good in this society. I want you to come forward with the other groups, the different groups we've learned the hard way that represent different areas and sectors of the faith. And I'd ask for different representatives of each of those groups to come together and let's have a catch up again and an encounter on these issues that are of deep concern to the faith. In the same way that any other set of people ask for a meeting, we would meet with them. So can we agree to that? And then the issues that you're encountering, also with the expungement of records, in the interim, AG and I can make sure that we investigate and make sure that those don't continue to be a bugbear for you. The next step, obviously, and that is the conversations, but we'll talk with you all and see what we can do to move forward and make your life easier going forward.
Give thanks.
All right, so I don't want you to leave here. I want you to give the information to Roy so that we can set up the meeting after crop over. That's fair? Thank you, my brother. Take care.
Madam Prime Minister, ministers, and everybody present here. My name is Aisha Jones. I was raised in Long Bay, St. Philip. I subsequently purchased land in Long Bay, St. Philip. And for as long as I know myself, where I purchased the land, there is an access road, which is a cart road. I started to build my home, and now I'm to the point where I need a certificate of compliance. I've been told that
Take your time.
I've been told that I needed a single surface seal for the road. And I spoke to my minister, Mr. Ware, and I asked if he'd be able to assist me. And he can tell you that I also told him I don't mind doing my part if he can help me as well. So we can do it together rather than completely ask the government for help, because I know the government is doing so much.
You need a certificate of compliance to settle the other legal and mortgage arrangements.
Yes, please.
Got you good. Don't go no further. Talk to Mr. Morris. Let me get town planning to check. Let me see what is really the issue there with the road and MTW.
So they already did that, but the inconsistencies between the two entities.
And that's why I recognize, and I may have to have and see what are the inconsistencies and how best to resolve it. So for the time I hear you talking, I know where you're going. So Roy, could you please, and then MTW, we're gonna need somebody from the depot to go and check by her house and see what the issue is and how best we can link, because people can't draw down the mortgage without a certificate of compliance.
That's right.
So therefore it means that you're carrying a heavy load now. That's why you're breathing so. Come forward, darling.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. Madam Prime Minister.
Good day.
My representative, Ms. Kia McConney, my good friend, Dr. Brown, and I just saw Commander slip out through the back door. Before you could start my question to
Mr. Codrington, give your name, please.
Did I just say it? Cliff Codrington.
That's what I said, Mr. Codrington, give your name, please.
Cliff. No. I must say, though, that it's just forums like this that things happen. This girl, young lady before me, she spent it back there and had some support. And she showed her nervousness, but she got her questions out. We had a program, before I get to my point, we had a program that you initiated, Madam Prime Minister, and I was a part of it, regathering. And that is something I would love to see continue because I understand it's not stopped. You pause it, right?
Well, we had to pause it, but the truth is I think that we're going to look and see how best we can let it resume and start from the scratch. You know, when DJ played, he said, "Wheel and come again." Don't mind, we did St. Lucie, St. Peter. We might have to wheel and come again from St. Lucie. So we'll get it done again. Whether we can do it 2023 or we're doing it 2024, we're going into discussions now to see how best we can resume it.
All right, good, because I got my chairman over there ready to start. And we were supposed to be Andrew, July, right? July.
Yes, St. Philip was July. The truth is, these meetings, these parish speaks, follow exactly the regathering months.
Exactly.
So that's why we started in St. Joseph in April. We went to St. John in May. We went to St. George in June, St. Philip now, and St. Andrew is in August.
Right, so we cool. Now, let me get to my point, though. I'm here to represent as a resident of the Poor Valley Villages. I got some notes here because they've suffered from Barry Frog nowadays. Now, I represent the residents, the patrons, and the staff of the villages. We have a situation up there where it does not affect me per se or those of us who have transportation. But there are some very dark areas coming onto the villages. And those of us who work late at night, who have to walk out to the rural section. I think Janelle would know what I'm speaking about because this was reported to the branch already. Coming from, some residents have to go, let me just check my note here. They have to take the bus either to Pilgrim Road, and it's a long walk out, or to back coming to Leadville. So we had conversations with the constituency branch, and my question would be to my representative, can you tell us what is the status? Because I think we have 17 signatures on a petition. So I'd like you to address this to me now so I can report to my people in the village.
Thank you very much for that question. And I have some good news just this week. We met with the ministry, we wrote to the Ministry of Transport, the Barbados Transportation Authority, Ministry of Transport, I should say. And they have given us their assurance that starting August 8th, that problem that you had identified with regards to people not having transportation and having to walk through the darkness at night after they finish work at Coverley Villages, and older persons, many people who have stopped driving, who now have to catch bus. The problem that you had identified were twofold: one, the darkness, and two, the transportation. On the transportation issue, starting August 8th, we have been told by the Transport Board that the Southern Circle bus will now be coming through Coverly Villages, and they will be able to write us.
Very good,
and
very
let
good,
us know.
very good. Very good.
On the matter of the darkness out there,
Yes.
we submitted on April 20th, I believe.
This is a rear section now.
Yes, this in the rear section there. We submitted the request for the lights to RDC. We did that on April 20th and on May the 21st, along with 33 other locations across the constituency. We have not yet heard back on that, but we will continue to follow up. So we've scored on one, the transportation, and we are working on the other one, which is the lighting.
Right. All right, before I go though, let me come in again. You know, there's a stretch of road, about 100 feet of road. You know what I'm talking about. The back of Coverly going to Lowers. Now, coming home a couple of nights, I see joggers on that stretch. It was overgrown with bush, and I think our last representative, he did some tremendous work there. But that is in the plan, that stretch of road there, for highlights, that could be a hazard right there.
That was one of the areas where you gave the numbers, poll numbers for the lights, and we included them on our submissions both in April and in May. And we will make another submission. We will keep submitting and submitting and submitting and following up to the best of our knowledge.
Thank you. I want to say that in some instances, we're really the victim of the supply chain disruption, and in other instances, delays that we've found out that I've tried to be able to put, and that's why I've asked Mr. Morris to follow up and see where we are with all of the street lights requests with Light and Power and RDC and UDC. Okay?
Good evening, everyone. Prime Minister, Honorable. Good evening, everyone. Honorable Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, Attorney General, Inderville, Prime Minister, Agriculture Minister, Anthony Singh, farmer from Riverland, the land lease project. Over the years, we had some difficulties in river, which we have overcome at the moment. But at the moment, we have faced a lot of losses over the years in terms of crops and not proper water supply and things like that. So we would like to know if the BDMC would help us in any way and assist us with the land lease. We have water bills that we had there to pay from then, that we move forward from now.
I honestly can't tell you without your meeting with the BA DMC. I don't know what the issues are, but I can give you the assurance, as will Indar, that we treat the things fairly. It may not be everything that you want, but what we can do, we will always do. I know that we took, and it cost us what, about $2 million to put the catchment pond in that river, and that has made a huge difference to all of you, hasn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
We're now about to see what else we can do with the aquaculture there. The minister, Indar, you want to update them on 3 houses. I don't want to take that away from you, because half the problem is also the water flowing down, as you know, from there as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We have looked at the 3 houses, Spring. You know very well, Ali, that up there, farmers engaged in blocking the stream, stopping each other from getting access to water. And in as much as we have expanded the Bronx Pond and will be putting in systems to share the water, you still have people, and some of you sent me photos this week, where people are putting concrete blocks in the stream and blocking the stream, stopping each other from getting water. This is being addressed through legislation this summer. I've already spoken to the permanent secretary, and we have engaged with an attorney who is providing us with the legal framework for it. This, of course, will then come to Cabinet and we will debate this in Parliament this summer. It's going to stop the blocking of the stream. It's going to increase the penalties for people who engage in excess damming of the water. We do recognize that there are people who live along the stream, and under the Three Houses Spring Act, it did give permission for some of them to dam water for livestock. This has changed completely, and people are damming the water for all kinds of different things. We're going to increase the penalties. We're going to stop the damming of the water so that all farmers will have access. And the most important thing is the stream is supposed to run into that Bronx Pond that we spent $2 million on, so then the water can be shared to all the farmers downstream through an irrigation system. So I'm saying to you that we're going to solve the problem with the water. I know what you speak of when you speak about giving assistance for outstanding bills, and you have crops that didn't come and you lost money, etc. But just bear in mind that we also put out $2 million through the Agriculture Development Fund for all the farmers at River, Spring Hall, everywhere, so that you had access to $20,000 and $30,000 in 2020 to be able to help you get back going. As far as my records show, those monies are still being repaid, and some farmers have fallen behind, and we are looking at how we can also address that for them. So we're doing a lot of things to assist the farmers over at River, but the one thing that we must stop if all you're all going to succeed is the blocking of that stream.
And it is wrong, the blocking of the stream. So, and that says this summer, he doesn't know that Parliament may rise in the middle of August. If it doesn't get to us soon, it will be done immediately as Parliament reconvenes at the end of September. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, one more is to the pond. The capacity of the pond was 6 million gallons. And as I say, you're holding 3 million at the moment. And I'm not seeing raising to that, and the water goes back to the other, bounce back. It don't reach the 6 million. Will it reach the 6 million gallon?
You're going to have more than 6 million gallons, actually, because phase 2 is going to also go to Three Houses Plantation. You know, in Three Houses Plantation Yard, they have the area that they call the hot water pond. That also is going to be used as a dam as well, so that you will have additional water.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister, to you and your team. My name is Barbara Bostic, and I have a small concern. It's not her?
Go ahead again.
Yeah, I said, good evening, Madam Prime Minister, to you and your team. I have a small concern.
Your name is Barbara?
Bostic.
Got you, thanks.
As it relates to the water and the sewage and garbage collection. I was wondering if perhaps you can look at that sewage and garbage collection, if any consideration can be given to it, because I know of someone who has been repairing a house, as you would say, picking at it for the last 4 years. The water is not being used, minimum payment is being charged on the bill, but you're still getting the sewage and the garbage collection added. There's no sewage, there's no garbage, so much so that when the distribution of the garbage cans were done, they didn't even leave one at the house. And, you know, the person continued to call sanitation to get a bin because work is being done at the house, and nothing is being done. When you call Waterworks to, you know, explain this matter to them, nothing is, you can't get through to them. So in other words, you know, just like how you had look at the electricity bill and you know, reduce the bill, you reduce the VAT on a certain kilowatts. You could probably look at the water and, you know, cap it at some point in time, because I'm also looking at an old person living in a house on a small pension, paying minimum water, but then you have these costs, because the costs are more than the minimum rate.
The truth is, I'd like to be able to say yes to everything. But you know,
But I know you listen, so
Exactly.
please.
So I've heard you, and I want Barbadians to work with me now. If we get this economy to grow, if we get all of the parts of the country working at the level at which we need it in the next couple of years, it then allows us to play a different hand. You understand? But right now, remember what we inherited. And then when we thought we would turn the corner after we clear the debt and we do all the things, in spite of everything, bring buses, trucks, build a new accident and emergency department, give people tax ease, who work in, increase the reverse tax credit. I could go on with the list. But the truth is that we need to get more growth, because when we did all of that, what happened? Boom, COVID. And when you thought COVID couldn't get worse, boom, ashfall. David, where you going? And when, you understand? And then after ashfall, see what there? After ashfall, then we had the freak storm, and they had people in St. Philip who got affected by the freak storm too. Then we had Elsa. And now that we thought, okay, we get past that, Ras Marley, and what we get now? The war. You understand? And the war now, and let me give you the figures. We have spent more than double the amount on fuel in the first 6 months of this year than we spent last year. So on average, we would spend 200 and change. I can't remember the number. We are about 500 and change now, 550 for the first 6 months of this year. So when I tell you that out there tight and things rough and the water choppy, but the one thing I know is that we get raised up in this country that even if it's tight and choppy, we're going to share the burden. And when things get better, we're going to do what? Share the bounty too. Share the goods. So I thank you for raising it, just as I've listened to Mr. Goddard on the other matter affecting pensioners. You will note that in the manifesto, we have a commitment that we want to honor before we ever go back to the people, and that is on the land tax. Why do you think we do that? Because we also want to be able to remove the burden. But at this point in time, given all that we have seen, because when we went to the election in January, we knew we had serious issues to face in the country. That's why I called the election early, remember? I told you that the next few years, we got to have some serious discussions, because the 2030s decade, looking dread, Nikolai. It's looking dread. But it's up to us to make sure that it is not dread. But we didn't know that Mr. Putin had plans. So when the election was done, we then bounced up Mr. Putin and his plans. And that has had a tremendous impact on the price of food and the cost of fuel. So I hear you. What I will say to you, for what it is worth, like with land tax, like with water, there is a relief board under the law. And therefore, if you feel you have a case that merits consideration, write and let them see. And it's an independent entity. It doesn't come to any of us. They make the decision. Mr. Halliday is here from the Water Authority, and they make the decision on that board as to whether relief can be given in full or part. Okay. Correct, sir? Right. So I'd encourage you, Ms. Bostic, to do that.
I will. I
Thank
have
you.
another concern.
Yes, ma'am.
This is personal as it relates to the CLICO pension. I had a pension fund with CLICO, and right now my money is with the central bank. I'm a pensioner, and I will love my money. And they said that I cannot get that money until 15 years from 3 years ago, which would make me something like 77. I don't know if I can live to see 77. I want my money now. And the interest,
I think that's with the bonds. You got bonds.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I was hearing that you were looking for someone to buy the bonds.
There are people who buy them. So if you,
Well, I would like to sell mine, honestly.
No problem. And let us be clear. when CLICO collapsed, the government of Barbados had to take up now, because of what the last government left us with, $600 million between CLICO and British American. And what we have in assets, AG, is about $80 million in assets. So where does that leave us? In the hop for over $500 million. So when we say that we are cleaning up, I am making a sport, because I would love that $500 million now to do so many things, from Carpenter's Glade right back through to the roads up here at Yorkshire, to all of the things. But in life, you play the hand that you have been dealt. And regrettably, we were dealt a bad hand with CLICO, and we all know it. But there are people who will buy the bonds. You may lose a few cents in the dollar.
I don't mind.
But guess why? Because the value of the bond over 15 years is not the same as the value of the bond today. So there are people who will buy the bonds. So Roy, let's take our contact information, and then we can write and tell you who are the people, get Central Bank to let you know who are the people who are trading in bonds and buying from people.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming up and raising these issues.
Good night, Prime Minister Mia Motley and the rest of the committee. My name is Jessica Noble, and my husband and I are small business owners of GNC Auto Products in 6 Roads, St. Philip, opposite Chafet on the Murrell. I had applied at the Barbados Trust Fund during COVID times.
Jessica, what's the last name?
Noble.
Noble.
I had applied at the Barbados Trust Fund during COVID times, so they told me they would get back to me, but I have not heard anything as yet. So I had talked to Indarir, but not face-to-face, and he had introduced me to tonight. So I wanted to find out if there's any way I could get any assistance from the Barbados Trust Fund in funding.
They should be able to.
The
if you
business.
speak to Mr. Morris, and they will put you on, but there's no reason why you shouldn't go down there again. Look, this government started the Trust Fund program to give people a chance and to allow people to build up a credit record.
Yes, please.
Because if you want to go ultimately for more money, people can ask you, well, show me your credit history.
Yes, please.
And therefore, we take a chance on Bajans with up to $5,000, and once you repay, you can borrow up to 10.
Yes,
the truth is that COVID has been hard, but I am happy to live in a country where the majority of people are still paying back. And they understand that by paying back, you're allowing yourself to borrow again and allowing others to borrow again.
Yes,
obviously, there's been hardship for some, but from what Kerry Simmons has told me, basically we're going in the right direction. Now, I would like to say that we can continue to put $10 million a year in it, but because of all of the things that we're doing to ease people, we may have to ease down on that a bit. But suffice it to say that in the same way we can waive taxes as we've done for other people in the past, it is about time that the government take chances on people who can't get any money to borrow if they go to the credit union or the bank or whatever.
Yes,
and that's
please.
all the trust fund is.
Yes,
so speak to Roy and we will follow up with you.
Yes,
and
please.
to make sure. But once you pay back,
Yes, please.
you get a large amount. You
Yes.
pay back there twice, you get to fund access and get an even larger amount.
Yes,
so it
please.
helps you build up the credit history. So
Yes,
good
please.
luck, my dear.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're gonna, I know it's past 9, but we're gonna finish these last 3 or 4 people because I came late and I don't want unfair people.
Good night, Prime Minister. I came here tonight to explain my living situations to you with me and my 2 teenage daughters. Live, breathe these lands of the Sands Christchurch.
You're sounding as though you need a private conversation. Thank you. Come to Mr. Morris up front there, darling. They don't want you to talk about you nor your teenage daughters in front of the whole world. All right? Thank you, love. What's your name again?
Hi, good night to Madam Prime Minister as well as the panel. My name is Lisa Mears. I am a appointed registered nurse at the QEH, and my issue tonight is related to housing and nurses. Now, with our basic salary being started at between $28,000 to $3,000, we do not qualify for a proper mortgage, even with the whole program. When you start with that, the most you can have coming out of your salary is $95. I am in 12 years at the QEH, and the most I qualify for is $300,000, and I can only have $95 coming out of my salary to qualify for one of these houses, even from the
I'm
whole
again a
project.
little lost, so maybe if you drop the mask and slow down, because you're saying that you wouldn't qualify for a more, you can qualify for up to 300,000.
I can qualify for up to 300,000,
Uh-huh.
being that I don't have anything else coming out of my salary,
Yeah.
like a car. The reality is that most nurses do get a car
Okay.
loan first
Okay,
because
so-
they need the transportation.
Right, so what you may need to do, and that's why I've asked for Financial Literacy Bureau, because what you may have to do, regrettably, is to be able to consolidate your loan in one. Let me give you the example. Why we started the HOPE program, the house at Lancaster, you've been to see it? Have you seen the houses at Lancaster?
Just the floor outline, like online.
No, Dad. You go and see it.
Okay.
I want you to go and see it. Roy, make sure you go and see it and carry a bundle of your work colleagues for you.
Yeah, I have I'm from the emergency room, and there are 8 of us that
So
applied.
I want to personally ensure that the 8 of you can go, because here is why, and the members of cabinet can attest to this. See the policemen, you see the nurses, you see the teachers, you see the people working in government for under $3,000. This is who we do hope for primarily, y'all. Why? We need to reduce the cost of land. So we cap the cost of land at $12 a square foot, when other people in Barbados selling land at $20 and $25 a square foot because of you, for you. We then said we had to cap the cost of services, the water, the roads, all of that. We then said, okay, we're going to deal with the roof and use the roof to offset the cost of land and services, so a house that would otherwise sell elsewhere in Barbados, much less spec, much less comfortable, for $250,000 and $260,000 is selling at Lancaster for $180,000, because the assignment of the photovoltaic panels on the roof make it now assignable to you. If you have $180,000 in there and you can qualify for up to $300,000, and your car loan may be, I don't know what, call out even 50,
500.
call 50,000 or whatever. The bad part of it is that you may have to end up paying longer for it than you would otherwise, but sometimes you got to be able to do that which is necessary to get out the box first, okay? And therefore, instead of you ending up with $95 in hand when the month come, if you pay the mortgage, you will get and go for a mortgage of $235,000. You understand? If it was $50,000 or whatever you owe, which will leave you some space to do other things. So
Question.
we can sit down with you or have people sit down with you, because in some instances it may require consolidation of debt in order to be able to acquire. And Dale can tell you this is something that happens in banks and credit unions almost daily. So I want to ask you to bring your colleagues and let us reach out to you. Because, and if you don't want Lancaster, there are other houses that will come in even cheaper than Lancaster. The ones that we're bringing out of Guyana will probably come in by the time you get the panel They're comfortable, coming at 110,000. It's up to where you want to start and the sacrifices you want to make and what funds you have. But we're trying to give Bajans a price point. The 80 or 85,000, Dwight, I can't remember the figure. By the time you add the 23,000 for the PV panel, it's close to 110. Then you have the other ones coming in with the gauge, like gauge work, still the Chinese. That's probably going to come in around there 160, 180, but we're trying to get a lower cost one for that design as well too. And then we have the Hope ones, which range depending on whether you want 2 and 3 bedroom, and those are traditional concrete block, and quite frankly, are very, very nicely appointed as well. All 3 of them, and that's why the housing fairs, I hope, where's Dwight, he's gone? The housing fairs should start, I hope, within a matter of 2 weeks, no later, as well as an opportunity to discuss mortgages and financial planning with the credit unions and the banks. We're trying to get them in one place and to be able to even do that virtually if possible, because obviously the houses are in different locations across the country. Okay? And when we say we want a silent revolution in housing, it's because of people like you.
I understand. Question,
So
though, sir.
don't forget when you finish to come to Roy and let us set up the thing. Tour.
Good night. My name is Shondette Wilshire, and I wanted to speak briefly about food security. There has been, and I agree, there is a need for it, and I have personally started my own garden since February. My biggest issue are the monkeys. I have a troop of about 40 monkeys that come and eat everything that is edible. And I would like to know what can be done.
Not only you. Just look up at me the other day and pick 3 green tomatoes that I had. Look at me. When I showed at them, they look back at me as if I talking to myself and eat the 3 green tomatoes and went up on the roof.
I'm just like, we're talking
I want
about
you to talk to the Minister of Agriculture, and I'm conscious. Look, we're going to have a sensible program of culling. We also have to do it responsibly, because what happens is that there are a lot of movements against this internationally, and therefore the minister knows how I feel. It is at almost endemic level, and we really, really, really need to deal with it.
Absolutely. All right, so I will do that. My other thing would be community farming. I heard from the St. George Speaks event, and I called the BADMC because my community is interested in it. And I would tell you, I have called and called, I have pressed every number, and I have been able to reach no one.
Look at them right there. Both of them right there. So you've come to the right place. Mr. Innes, Mr. Andrele, please speak to Ms. Wilshire.
Okay. And finally...
also explain to me why they ain't answering the phone.
And finally, I would like to speak with someone about an idea I have for foreign direct investment in terms of short term. So I'm not sure.
You said that? I missed what you said
Oh,
about
okay.
FDI.
So this is a completely different topic. I've been in the international business sector for about 20 years now, and I have an idea. In terms of foreign direct investment, I would like to speak to someone about.
No problem. You have it written down?
I can do that.
If
That's
you
not a
write it
problem.
down, and then what I'll do is ask Kerry Simmons to meet with you.
Okay.
And Mr. Morris will follow up with you to make sure that that happens.
Okay.
Okay? And people may ask why I have this disposition to these things. You know, I learned a long time ago, a listening ear is all it takes. And if it can work, I can tell you yes. If it can't work, we equally tell you this one can't work for X, Y, Z reasons. So I want you to encourage as many Bajans, because the more ideas that can contend, the more we can have a chance of doing things that might be out of the ordinary and extraordinary. So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. I'm just seeing, for instance, I did an ad for 10, well, I was looking for 10 people, and I got applications for 324 people. And there is a lot of growth that's possible in my industry, so.
No, absolutely. And come and let me get your numbers. I don't want you to give it over the ear, as people would say, so that we can follow up with you. So when you write, we can look at it. All right?
Hi, good evening, Madam Prime Minister, and to your guest. My name is Theo Jimot. I am wearing two hats. But
Theo or Leo?
Pardon me?
You said Theo or Leo?
Theo, T-H-E-O, Jimot. I'm wearing two hats, but I will be brief. The first concern I would like to bring, I would like some assistance in, is that I am a resident of Breezy Hill. And for the amount of time I've been living there, over 20 years now, we do not have an adequate bus service at all.
You don't have a second exit either.
And you don't have a second exit.
I saw that firsthand on
Right.
Saturday, and Mr. Boyne is in fact going to make sure that we start on something within the next year. And I don't
you
want
very
to
much.
next month or 2 months, because we have planning to do, we have designs to do, but it is like an area down in my constituency equally that had only one entrance and exit with 200 houses down in there. So you ain't gonna make no representation. For safety, it has to happen.
Thank you very much. While you are saying that also, there is a pole at the entrance of the gap as well. September the 12th this year would have been over 2 years I've been asking for it to be changed. It is a pole, lighting pole number ROH 456. This pole has been leaning and is leaning very dangerous. We've had an accident there sometime last year, and one of the cars that was involved in the accident narrowly missed the pole, but if it had hit the pole, then there would be no entrance to Breezy Hill whatsoever.
No problem.
Because the pole...
Can you give Katie the poll number when we finish up?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
And the next thing also with up there, we need to get some, a couple of the wells cleaned. I know because of the COVID situation and so on, but with the recent falling of the ash and so on, there are a lot of wells and drains in the area, not only in Breezy Hill, but in Evelyn Road, Oldbury. If you get a drop of rain too much, there's flooding. Right over here in the area by 6 Roads by the roundabout. If the weatherman says tomorrow that there's going to be rain, I guarantee you by 12 o'clock tonight out there flood. And that is a serious problem. Every time there's rain, there's a whole set of water settling over in that area. And we would also like to see if we can actually get a bus shelter sorted out for some of the residents in that area as well, because some drive, some catch the bus.
This is for Breezy Hill.
This is for Breezy Hill, yes, please.
The truth is, your MP brought me up in there on Saturday.
Okay.
And therefore, we were able to look at some of the issues. Mr. Boyne, raise your hand, from MTW, was also there with us. And there are a number of areas with drainage. The truth is, we've seen a lot less flooding, but there's still areas that need work. So we were in Woodburn Park as well.
Well, there's Woodburn, there's Evelyn Road, there's Oldbury.
Yeah. Jade Circle, there's a number of them.
Yes.
So,
okay.
Mr. Yearwood from the Drainage Division knows about them, and we're going to go about them systematically. Okay?
Thank you very much. And I'll
Thank
take
you.
off that hat. Now I'll put on the other hat. I am the chairperson also of the St. Philip West District Emergency Organization. St. Philip West District Emergency Organization. And I believe you all know what we do. We are a volunteer arm of the Department of Emergency Management, and we do what we do because we love people. We love to help. However, we would really like a place to call home, a place where we can set up an emergency operations center, that we can have it fully equipped with the necessary tools and so on, so that when we are called up to any emergencies, that we can adequately respond. We are thankful very much for the equipment bin at the District C Police Station. However, with the equipment in there, we are servicing St. Philip, which is a wide area. There are 3 DEOs in the area. However, the equipment in the bin can barely suffice 1 DEO. And if something is to happen that would impact the entire parish of St. Philip, it is a case where first come, first serve. We would have earmarked an area here, not far from where we are right now, that we would like to see if we can set up an EOC there. But we are open to any other suggestions, any other place where we can have this done as
I
soon
was
as
just
possible.
about to ask you if, thank you. I was just about to ask you if you have an idea of where you all can operate from, or ideas, and you can submit them to the MP or DEM directly, and let us look at it. Let's be clear that the bins that we're talking about, Dale, remind me, these are the ones that the Japanese had given us. So
Yes.
those were specified, and yeah, and it was only 1 per parish.
Understood.
But what we have done separate from that, and that's more centralized, is to try to invest in cots, because we didn't have a lot of cots if something happened. Invest in tarpaulin, invest in a number of supplies that are necessary. And as you know, we work with the roving team as well in order to be able to expand it. I accept that there's legitimacy in seeing if we can get places for people to operate from. We may not have the money to rent a place full time, but I'm sure that just as equipment is kept at the police station, you can find a cooperative arrangement with a church or a building or a business or something where we can store things, and therefore they can be ready and easy access, especially in an area that is not flood prone or liable to be blocked off because of trees falling, etc.
Yeah, but okay, with the one at the police station, that is fine. But if going up past the prison, if there is impeded, there's no way that we can get there, to get that equipment. And mind you, we all do volunteer. We have spent our monies.
I got you. I got enough done by me too, and good people. So meet with Kay, and y'all come up with some solutions. And since it's a parish-wide thing, probably with all 3 MPs should meet with all 3 district emergency things in there as the senior MP, organize it, and let us see how we can treat the St. Philip as a collective, because when the storm or the hurricane come, it don't know west, north, or south. It only know St. Philip. You understand? So we need to operate as one parish with these emergencies. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. That's it? You can speak to it at the end.
Hi, good evening, Prime Minister.
Aishaka.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. Madam Prime Minister, I'm not here in the capacity as an entertainer or a performer this evening. I'm just here to air some concerns. I'm a member of the St. Philip West constituency, and I'm here to talk about things from a constituency level and from a community level. Now, there is something called the Old Skills Training Center in St. Patrick's, and I am earnestly and making a plea. I have spoken to my representative, Reddy, she and I have already visited the site, and see it has great potential for things to be done in the community. The same way we want to create a smart city, we can create smart constituencies. And I believe that old skills training center can be used as an excellent spot for community work, not just for St. Philip West, but St. Philip North and St. Philip South. come together as a collective and working to do something. I have some ideas whereby that you can use the skills of the persons for the Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute, persons for the Vocational Training Board, and those youngsters who are doing those programs to come in and work on the actual site and use it as a grading process for them within their...
Good idea, Star.
Yeah, in the constituencies, and it can come together to make a wonderful project for the community. I have my own...
To the skills training people, we also have the kids in the Barbados Youth Advanced Corps.
Correct.
So it makes sense to be able to find something as a project and it will benefit the community in the long run.
And for those persons who are into masonry, carpentry, joinery, whatever it is, they can come together and work on that project so we can have a smart setup in terms of technology. We know we're advanced towards technology. And it also help those persons, those elder persons in the community who need to be taught about technology and ITCs and these different things as we're moving towards that in our society. So that'd be a great initiative for our constituency. I have a charity, and what I aim to do with my charity is to find programs to help those persons within my community. Recently, we started something called Rejuvenate. Actually, we started it in St. Michael's South with the Honorable Kurt Humphrey and the City of Bridgetown with Corey Lane, who are both representatives of the Ministry of Elder Affairs. And that project kicked off to help elderly persons in the community, to give them pedicures, manicures, and also do hair braiding and these kind of things. It's an initiative that we plan to carry out for a year as a pilot project. And we want to expand into other communities so that persons can benefit from it. Basically, we're putting our own pockets to help the initiative and try to make it work. So you can look out for that as well. It's already started, so you could also check out for that. Also, I want to speak on a matter that is quite emotional for me. There's a competition called the Junior Soca Monarch Competition, not the national competition, that was supposed, the Junior Soca Monarch Competition that was supposed to be held from a private entity. And unfortunately, it was unable to come off, and there are many youngsters who are crying out and say that they're not getting the opportunity to be a part of that competition to come off so they could, show off their talents to Barbados and stuff like that. I don't know, Prime Minister, if it's any possibility that you could check into it, because it's an initiative that was started by Krista Cummings Beckles, and, to see that it's going to die a natural death, I would like that to happen, because I also have persons who are involved in the competition who are too old for the NCF's competition. And, as a person who believes in talent and culture, I would ask you kindly just to get an ear to take a look into that for me, please, because as a fellow performer and entertainer, I like to see young people who want to do positive things and not be on the block to be given a gun, and then somebody tell them, oh, you're my soldier, and have allegiance to that person. So if you can do that for me, I'd be very grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Kay, you want to speak to the center?
Yeah, thank you very much for raising the question about the center. As Aishaka said, we did have a group of people. We went and we looked at the center to see what is being done. And we are now having some discussions to see, one, what now needs to be done to restore it, and two, whether or not we will be able to raise some funds across the community and elsewhere to be able to now make it work for everyone. And the idea that we use some of the people in the community was one of the discussions that we have, and we are now seeking to put that skills bank together so that we'll be able to engage people at the right time. So thank you very much, Aishaka, for your engagement and the support you've given so far in terms of trying to restore that center.
Good night.
Before you start, ma'am, this will be our final presentation. Aishaka was supposed to be the last, but we will give you the opportunity to continue, and then we will just wrap up. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good night to everyone, my Prime Minister, everybody, my MP, Sonia. But there's a little concern I have. I am the only one in my house that gets
What's
a
your
little
name again?
contribution. Myrtle Skeet.
Myrtle Skeet.
I am the only one in my house that get a little contribution, and it's disability benefit. The ship is rough. The sea is rough, and the ship is sinking. I also have a baby to take care of due to the fact his father was gunned down. I need some urgent help and assistance.
Come, darling.
And assistance.
We'll talk. Say, I want you to talk your business out. All right? Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you before handing back over to Roy. And on behalf of the 3 MPs and myself, this is something, as I keep saying, this engagement I believe to be a critical part of our democracy and who we are. And I want to thank those of you who have come out, those of you who spoke, and those of you who also constituted the audience. And we will try our best to continue to follow up on as many of the issues as possible and to take the advice where possible, where we can. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Roy?
Thank you all again. Before you leave, one of the issues that came up during the night was housing. And just for your information, the National Housing Corporation will be holding a mortgage fair at Golden Square, Freedom Park on Saturday, which is the 23rd, between 9 and 3 p.m. So you can go there. You can see the houses that the Prime Minister spoke about in video form there, but you still have the option of going to the 3 locations. But at this mortgage fair, you will get a chance to see the houses as well as to discuss mortgage options. So bear that in mind. Golden Square, Saturday coming, 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. Thank you very much for coming and have a blessed night.